Okay, so this is notes receivable and settling notes receivable. And we're going to start with when the note is honored, which means it's paid in full on time. So we're looking at a 3-month note issued September 1st, $1,000, 12% interest. So let's just go through the whole thing on this. So on 9/1, we issue the note. So we've got a note receivable, and I'm just going to keep it simple. We lent out some cash for $1,000. Okay, so it's due in 3 months, so that's September, October, November. So it would be due on 12/1. And so on 12/1, we would say, okay, we have to compute the interest on this note, which I picked easy numbers. So we would go, remember the principal, times the rate, times 12%, times 3/12, whoops, and that would be $30, okay? So when we collect the note, the person's gonna give us a check for $1,030, principal plus interest. The note receivable comes off the books at its face value, and we book our interest revenue. Okay, so that's how we record a note being honored. Now the only complication there is, what if instead of dated 9/1, the note was dated, oops, 11/1. It's kind of messy. All right, so now instead of 9/1, it's dated 11/1. So, it's not erased that well. Okay, here we go. So let's see what happens with this. The total amount of interest is going to still be $30, but at 12/31, we have to book the amount of interest that has built up on this note so far that year. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going interest receivable, because we won't receive it until the note is paid off during the next year, and we're going to actually book the interest revenue on our books for the current year, which would be for November and December. So that would be $20, right? You with me so far? 20 of the $30 interest. Then, when the note is paid off on, let's see, where are we? Okay, so when the note is paid off on February 1, because it's, okay, so it would be November, December, January, it would be paid off February 1, we would get the same cash of $1,030. The note would come off the books at its $1,000 face value, but we would go interest receivable, because now the interest that we booked up here has been received for 20, and then we would have 10 of interest revenue that would need to be booked for the year in which the note was paid off. So that's when a note is honored, paid in full on its due date. So when it's dishonored, we had the two scenarios, if you remember. This is where it wouldn't be paid off on its due date, or in full on its due date. So the first scenario is that we're not going to collect it on time, but we expect to collect it sometime. And so what do we do in that case? Well, what we will do is we're going to convert the note plus the interest that goes with that note into an account receivable. So say we found out on, the note came due on, let's say, go back to the 11/1, so it came due on 2/1, and on 2/1 they can't honor the note. So we convert it to an accounts receivable. So we're going to go accounts receivable. We're going to take the note off the books. So there goes the note. So the note's coming off the books. And we're going to record the interest revenue that goes with the full note of $30. And we're going to have an account receivable from that person of the full $1,030. Okay. Well, it's not too bad. And then, say on April 1st they pay it, we would simply cash and then accounts receivable. because that would be the 1,030 accounts receivable that would be received. So this is kind of that middle situation where the note's not honored, it's dishonored, but we do expect to collect it sometime. Convert it to accounts receivable, recognize the interest, and then when it's collected, it's the accounts receivable that gets dealt with. Okay, so then there's the really unhappy situation of where it's dishonored and we never expect to collect it. And in that case, rather than try and erase everything, this is the sad situation where it's dishonored, we never expect to collect it, we're very sad, there's even some tears, okay? And so in this case, we would write it off as we would just use an allowance account, go allowance for doubtful accounts, and we would just write off the $1,000. No interest involved here because we're not going to see any of it, we haven't recorded any of that, and then we would simply write off the note receivable for the $1,000. It's assuming we hadn't accrued any of the interest on it. Okay, so those are your 3 different things that can happen with settling an accounts receivable. Notes receivable. Sorry about that. Okay.